You have a dog, or you want one, or you at least think they seem fine. But 40,000 years ago, that dog was a wolf. It was tracking the same animals you were tracking. It was faster than you, had better senses, and had no interest in whether you made it through to morning. So how did we get here? How does a predator that was competing against us for food end up sleeping at the foot of your bed? The answer is one of the most surprising partnerships in the history of life on this planet. It did not just give us a companion. It changed what was possible for our entire species. It may have changed everything. To understand why this matters, you have to understand the world it happened in. 40,000 years ago, the planet was not waiting to become what it is now. No safe places worth mentioning, no fences, no electric lights, just darkness and everything that moved through it. Cave lions, cave hyenas, cave bears the size of modern horses, every one of them larger and more physically capable than any human alive at the time. You were a medium-sized primate with a sharpened stick, trying to sleep in a landscape that treated you as potential food. And there was someone else here too. Neanderthals had lived in Europe for 200,000 years before modern humans arrived. They were not simple or primitive. They used fire, they crafted tools, they buried their dead. They had wider shoulders, denser bones, and a body built specifically for the cold. By every physical measure, they should have outlasted us. They are gone, every single one of them. We are here. And the reason that happened starts with a wolf that made a choice nobody asked it to make. Nobody planned to domesticate a wolf. There was no meeting where humans decided to befriend a predator. What happened was quieter and stranger than that. Some wolves, the ones with the least instinctive wariness around humans, began drifting close to camps. Not to challenge anyone, just to exist nearby, to eat whatever scraps were within reach. The wolves that could tolerate being near people without panicking found more food. They survived longer. They had more offspring. And those offspring inherited slightly more of that calm around humans. Repeat that loop for several thousand years and something new appears. Not a wolf that learned to tolerate people. Something genuinely new. An animal that had never existed before. An animal shaped by living alongside humans into something built for exactly that purpose, that had never existed anywhere on Earth before. Here's the detail that changes everything most people think they know about this story. Dogs were domesticated more than 10,000 years before any other animal on Earth. Before the goat, before the cow, before chickens, before farming existed at all. This partnership was not something that came out of settled agricultural life. It was forged during the most demanding conditions humans ever faced. The Ice Age, competing predators, prey that was more powerful than it is now. The dog did not become our companion because life got comfortable. The bond formed precisely when life was at its most difficult. That is the part worth sitting with. When survival was the entire question every single day, something shifted between our species, something that would shape the next 40,000 years of history. Researchers studying ancient large animal hunting sites in Europe found something they could not easily explain. Sites containing the remains of 80, 90, sometimes more than 100 individual mammoths. Shelters constructed from their bones. Evidence of repeated use across thousands of years. A mammoth is roughly 4 tons of muscle and power. A human with a spear working alone has very limited options against one. A coordinated group of humans working alongside large dogs has something that functions like a strategy. Dogs would find prey first, track it across terrain by scent alone. Then surround it, hold it in place while hunters moved in. Each species contributing what the other could not. The timing of those ancient hunting sites corresponds almost exactly with when dogs entered the picture. The math changed when the partnership formed. More prey meant more food meant stronger people and more children who survived. A population that eats better grows faster and compounds that advantage across generations. The dog did not just help with one hunt, it changed the arithmetic of survival permanently. But the hunt was only half of it. The other half happened at night. When a predator moves toward a human camp where dogs are present, it does not get to approach in silence. It gets announced. The humans wake up with warning. Ancient humans had almost no useful vision after dark. Their sense of smell was minimal compared to everything moving around them. Dogs covered every one of those gaps. They sensed things approaching before any human could. They patrolled while the camp rested. They transformed the most exposed hours from the riskiest part of every day into something manageable. Do that across thousands of nights and the numbers shift completely. One group waking up every morning a little more intact, a little better fed. The other group facing the same conditions without that advantage. The gap looks small day by day. Across 1,000 years, it becomes everything. Neanderthals never formed a partnership with any animal, not one. They faced the Ice Age the way they had always faced challenges, with tools, with fire, with accumulated knowledge, with their own considerable strength. Homo sapiens arrived in Europe with something that had never existed before. A working cross-species alliance with a predator, a partnership that extended their hunting range, improved their success with large prey, and covered the nighttime hours when human capabilities were at their lowest. Neanderthals were physically stronger, had been there longer, and knew the land. None of it was sufficient. Within 10,000 years of modern humans arriving in Europe, Neanderthals were gone, and we were not. A partnership with a wolf may have been the single advantage that decided that outcome. Every other animal humans eventually domesticated contributed something physical. Goats gave milk, cattle provided labor, horses provided speed. Dogs gave something no other animal has ever provided to any species in any relationship we know of. They rewired themselves to understand us. Over thousands of years of living alongside humans, dogs developed something that nothing else on Earth has. Point at something across a room. Your dog immediately looks at the thing. Not at your hand, not at your finger, the thing. A chimpanzee, the animal sharing the most genetic material with us, will look at your finger. Dogs grasp pointing as communication from puppyhood with no training required. This is not something we taught them. It emerged in their biology over generations of living alongside humans. Their brains developed dedicated responses to the human voice. Their auditory systems respond to emotionally weighted sounds, a laugh, a cry, an angry shout, all processed in ways that parallel our own brain responses. They respond not just to what you say, but to how you feel when you say it. In a study, dogs exposed to the scent of a stressed person showed measurable stress themselves. Dogs exposed to calm people remained calm. They were reading human emotional chemistry before the person had consciously registered what they were feeling. For an ancient human in the darkness of an ice age night, that is not interesting. It is a survival mechanism sleeping 3 feet away. And then there is the most remarkable thing of all. When a dog makes sustained eye contact with you, both of you experience a rise in oxytocin, the same bonding hormone released between a parent and a newborn, the same chemical that builds lasting trust and the impulse to protect. Hand-raised wolves, ones that spent their entire lives with humans, do not produce this response. It is specific to domesticated dogs. They evolved this response as a biological mechanism for connecting themselves to people. That is not an accident. That is a species that shaped itself to bond with us. At ancient burial sites across different cultures thousands of years apart, dogs were found laid to rest alongside humans. Some with simple decorations, some placed near the people they lived with, treated in the same way those communities treated their own. These were not tools that people felt fond of. They were companions whose passing was mourned. Ancient humans, 15,000 years ago, grieved their dogs. That alone tells you what this relationship actually was, and how deep it ran. The dog was there before agriculture, before cities, before writing, before every other domesticated animal. It was there when we had almost nothing, and the outcome was still genuinely uncertain. And it stayed. 40,000 years later, the descendants of those wolves are asleep in your home. And if you think that is simply a nice piece of trivia, you are missing the actual story. The actual story is that without that partnership, the trajectory of this species looks very different. The world you live in today sits downstream of a wolf that moved a little closer to a human fire one night, and never quite moved away again. That is the whole story, and it is the most important one we have. Think about what the dog actually gave us beyond the obvious, beyond hunting help, beyond guard duty. They gave us the ability to sleep through the night, which gave us energy we had never had before, which went into every other thing humans were trying to build. The dog partnership freed up human cognitive resources that had been consumed by constant vigilance. When you are not spending every minute of darkness waiting for something to approach from the dark, you can think about other things, better tools, better plans, better stories around the fire, all downstream of the dog. And here is something worth considering about your dog right now. When it looks at you, it is not just looking at a person. It is looking at the species its entire lineage evolved specifically to be beside. Every instinct it has was shaped in relationship to you. Every biological capacity that makes it remarkable was built alongside your ancestors. It did not just join our story, it helped write it. Consider the Neanderthals one more time. Everything they had was genuinely impressive, and it was not enough. The one thing that seems to correlate most directly with that outcome is the one that is currently asleep at the foot of your bed. When researchers try to understand why modern humans spread across the entire planet, why we succeeded in environments we were not built for, why we outlasted every other human species that ever existed, the dog keeps appearing in the evidence. Not as a footnote, as a factor. The bond is older than every civilization we have ever built, older than every religion, older than every written language, older than every city ever constructed, and it is still here. Every dog alive today carries the biological imprint of 40,000 years of partnership with humans. Every human alive today carries the cognitive and cultural benefits of that same partnership. We shaped each other across the longest friendship in the history of living things on this planet, and it started with one wolf, making a decision that nobody asked it to make, and a human choosing not to drive it away, 2 decisions in the dark. That reshaped the next 40,000 years of life on this planet. Your dog is not a pet that evolved from wolves, it is a partner that co-evolved with us. each species changing in response to the other, across conditions that neither of you could have survived alone. That is not a pet, that is a partner. 40,000 years of shared history. Winters survived together. 40,000 years of watching each other's backs. And every morning one of you gets up and feeds the other without fully understanding why it feels so important. Now you know why. It is 40,000 years of partnership expressing itself in the only way it knows how. Through loyalty, through attention, through that particular way it looks at you. That look is not just affection. That is 40,000 years of evolution pointing exactly at you. Subscribe to Ancivex, a new ancient history video every 2 days.